entered Zone C. You have advantage.
2 for 1.
Yes! 3 down!
Ladies and gents, my name is Xander, aka Diaslayers, and in this video, we're gonna find out the top 5 PvP on rifles that you need to get your hands on ASAP, so then you can be prepared for this brand new DLC and Season 11 coming out on Tuesday, June 9th. Now there is a colossal amount of autos out there that are going to absolutely eradicate, decimate, and obliterate every single guardian in your path. But for this list, what we're only going to focus on is legendary auto rifles. This means that we're not looking at any exotic like the Osiris Regime, the Hardlight, or even the Monte Carlo, and rather, we're going to be focusing on legendaries, including their TTK stats, their base stats, and of course, the 1 or 2 perks that you should look for in every single column, so then you can get that ideal god roll to truly reign supreme among all autos in the game. However, what you have to understand first is one thing that Bungie said in their TWAB, and you guys can see this right there on screen. At the top, you can see that there are some future archetype updates, but also notice that in that very first paragraph, or rather second sentence, Bungie specifically says that our current goal is to touch on these in Season 12. And that then means to you that this coming up season is Season 11. And so all the auto rifles that we have right now in this current game are going to be the exact same way that they currently are and how they stand now. In Season 12, then we're going to see some sniper rifle changes, some hand cannon changes, and some adaptive frame auto rifle changes as well. But until then, we're going to have some fun with these top 5 auto rifles that we're about to see right now. And so the only thing left to do is just to simply sit back, relax, and eviscerate that notification button, and let's jump right into the video. Arriving in the number 5 spot is an auto rifle that many of you probably have forgotten about. That's because it hasn't been seen in what seems like decades now, but it's called the Duty Bound. If you want to get your hands on this beauty, and the only way in which you can do so is by completing the Nightfall strike known as Sabathun's Song. If RNG is on your side, then maybe it might just drop for you, and once it does so, it's going to have a fantastic roll because it's got a curator roll, and we're going to look at those perks in just a couple of seconds. But before we do so, what I want you to understand is that it's got one damage buffing perk, and that's called Rampage, which is going to increase this weapon's TTK exponentially. First of all, know that this thing happens to have a base TTK at 0.7 seconds, and it can do so in 8 crits. But if you happen to get just buy shots and buy shots alone, it's going to have a 1.2 second TTK, and that's then going to take 13 body shots. However, as soon as you happen to get Rampage times 2 stacked, that's when this thing has an optimal TTK at 0.6 seconds, and it's only going to take 6 crits in 1 body. If you thought that was good, then when you happen to get Rampage times 3 stacked, things get even juicier. That's because when it happens to have Rampage times 3, this weapon can have an optimal TTK at 0.5 seconds. Yes, my friends, you heard me right as I said 0.5 seconds. And just so that we're all on the exact same page, I'm going to put all those stats that I just said right there on screen. Please note that all these TTK computations were done in a frame-by-frame analysis, and they were also done with a Guardian at Tier 9 or Tier 10 Resilience, aka 201 or 198 points of health. Furthermore, the reason why I didn't show Rampage times 1 is because Rampage times 1 is actually going to have the exact same TTK as the weapon's base TTK with a Guardian at 10 Resilience. But I will say that this can actually change if a Guardian happens to have less resilience than this, and don't worry, we'll cover that later in the video. Some of you might be asking yourselves the question, okay, well, what other kind of perks does this thing actually have? And to you I say, you guys can see those perks right there on screen. And going from right to left, this thing's got Rampage or Zen Moment in that 3rd column, Accurized rounds or ricochet rounds in the 2nd column, and red dot ORS1 or the fast draw IS sight in its 1st column. Now the way in which I'm running this thing is with Rampage, ricochet rounds, and the red dot ORS1 sight. And the reason why I want this to be so is because I want to have a higher lethality with a decent amount of consistency, and that's what ricochet rounds and the red dot sight then give the weapon to. If you're looking for just a consistency based roll, then I would highly recommend using Zen Moment with ricochet rounds and once again the ORS1 sight, because this thing is going to be just that, a laser beam with Zen Moment equipped. As far as the Duty Bound goes, the only thing else that I want to cover here is the weapon's base stats, and you guys can see all of those right there on screen. And the ones that are the most notable ones is of course the weapon's range at 61 out of 100, followed by the weapon's aim assistance at 73, which of all the weapons on this list is very high, and a pretty decent recoil direction at 60, making it so that this thing is going to have a very good shot rhythm once you also include the fact that it's got a stability factor at 55. If you're looking for a weapon that's going to have a guaranteed roll with either accurized rounds or ricochet rounds, followed by Zen Moment or Rampage, then this duty bound you simply can't go wrong with. And so once RNG is on your side from the Serathong Song Nightfall Strike, then there is no doubt in my mind this thing's going to fit your playstyle, aggressive, passive, or somewhere in between, and that is something that I can guarantee. Appearing in the number 4 spot is a severely underrated auto rifle, and it's known as the Ether Doctor. If you're looking to dissect a couple enemy guardians, then this Ether Doctor is 110% the way to go. And the way in which you're probably going to get your hands on this the most easily is simply by completing activities or rank up packages on the Tangled Shore. Now I won't lie, I got very lucky with the roll that I happened to get on this thing, and that is Rampage, Zen Moment, Armor Piercing Rounds, the Dust.D1 sight, as well as a Handling Masterwork and a Rampage spec mod. Just a little FYI, this Ether Doctor is actually in the exact same archetype as the Duty Bound, and thus it's going to have the exact same optimal TTK at 0.7 seconds. Likewise as the Duty Bound, this thing also once again has Rampage, and with Rampage times 1 and a Guardian at 6 resilience, aka 192 points of health, its optimal TTK is then going to be at precisely 0.6 seconds. However, if you happen to get Rampage times 3 proc, and this is where the magic happens, because all of a sudden this thing then has an optimal time to kill at 0.5 seconds. Yes, you heard me right as I said 0.5 seconds. And just that we're all on the same page, you guys can see all those stats that I just mentioned right there on screen. The main note that I want you guys to take away from this is that these stats right here are actually the exact same as what can happen on the Duty Bound. But the main difference is that I showed you Rampage times 1 here with a Guardian at 6 resilience, whereas before the Duty Bound, I showed you Rampage times 2 with a Guardian at 10 resilience. Both the Ether Doctor and the Duty Bound can do the exact same thing when they happen to have Rampage times 1, times 2, or times 3 equipped. And so having said this, you're probably thinking to yourselves, okay, well, what if I don't actually want a roll that happens to have Rampage? That, Diaslayers, is a marvelous and also spectacular question. And before I show you all the perks that I recommend, please understand there are a ton of perks in these things, and so I'm only looking for 2 perks in every single column to make sure that you truly do get the ideal god roll among god rolls, and with that, you guys can see all the perks right there on screen. In the first column, I try and go for the Dust Sight D1 or the Dust.D1 sights, but as far as the second, third, and fourth columns goes, here I'm going to recommend either high caliber rounds or ricochet rounds, Zen Moment or dynamic sway reduction, and finally Rampage or moving targets. If I was you and I'm looking for that high lethality and high consistency based roll, then what I'm trying to get here is Rampage, Zen Moment, and high caliber rounds. But for those of you looking for the absolute laser beam of a roll, maybe what you're looking for is something like, say, moving target, dynamic sway reduction, and ricochet rounds. I'm going to try and send you all the RNG luck that I possibly can so then you can get exactly the roll that you're looking for to fit your playstyle the best. But something else that you absolutely have to know is the weapons based stats, so then you can really get a sense as to all the pros and cons that this thing has, and maybe look for different perks that are then going to fill for the weapon's weaknesses or strengths in this regard. As we can see from right there on screen, the weapons based range stat really isn't that great, but it's not terrible and somewhere in between at 44 out of 100. But its handling stat is superb at 65, and its aim assistance isn't too shabby either at 61. But something that's a little bit lacking is the weapon stability stat at 46, and its recoil direction only at 47. This then means to you that this weapon's really not going to have that great of a shot rhythm if you don't happen to have at least one stability increasing perk. And so in this sense, I'd highly recommend that you try and get either Zen Moment or dynamic sway reduction on this thing to actually make it viable in PvP. And don't forget that dynamic sway reduction is actually getting a buff come Tuesday as well, and who knows, that might be the #1 stability perk over Zen Moment, but only time will tell. All I can say is that for the Ether Doctor, definitely try and get your hands on this thing if you don't already have one, as it's no laughing matter and no laughing gas is going to change that, because this Doctor right here is going to have the precision of a scalpel and slice and dice enemy guardians into oblivion. Making itself known in the #3 spot is an auto rifle that can roll with so many god rolls because it's got so many perks that are just absolutely marvelous and outstanding, is one that you can currently get from Reckoning, and it's called the Gnawing Hunger. Now I can't speak for everyone, but at least for myself, I despise Reckoning, and so I pretty much don't have that many of these things. But the good news here is that come season 11, this thing's going to come as a world drop. And this means that it can come from any kind of legendary engram, as well as also prime engrams, so make sure that you're on the hunt for this thing, as it's going to drop in many places that you simply aren't going to expect. And having said that, One of the reasons why I love this gnawing hunger and the fact that I made the number 3 spot is because in its 4th and final column, it can come with so many amazing rolls, in particular with damage buffing perks like something like say Kill Clip, Multi-Kill Clip, Rampage, and Swashbuckler, just to name a few. But the ones that we're going to focus on here is number 1 Kill Clip and number 2 Multi-Kill Clip. The roll that you're seeing on this gnawing hunger thus far is one with just this: Multi-Kill Clip, Zen Moment, Accurate Rounds, Chamber Compensator, a Handling Masterwork, and a Counterbalance mod. As the same with the Duty Bound and the Ether Doctor, this gnawing hunger is once again in the exact same archetype as those 2 beauties that I just mentioned, and so thus it has the exact same optimal TTK at 0.7 seconds and the same body shot TTK at 1.2 seconds. However, with Multi-Kill Clip and specifically Multi-Kill Clip times 1, all you simply need to do is get 1 kill and then reload, and the weapon's optimal time to kill then becomes 0.6 seconds with 6 crits in one body. Even if you happen to land body shots and body shots alone with Multi-Kill Clip times 1, this thing is then going to have a body shot TTK at 1 second on the dot and then require 11 body shots to thus obtain this. Now remember what I said from earlier and that this thing can also roll with just Kill Clip? Well, if you happen to have just Kill Clip on this thing, then all of a sudden its optimal time to kill with Kill Clip prot then becomes 0.5 seconds. Just that we're all on the exact same page, you guys can see those stats that I just mentioned right there on screen. And so the main thing that I want you to note is that once again, all these computations were done in a frame-by-frame analysis, and they were also done with a Guardian at tier 10 or tier 9 resilience, aka 201 or 198 points of health. I know, those types of TTKs are just astounding and phenomenal in so many ways. But this thing can actually do those types of TTK factors a little bit differently if you happen to get some other damage buffing perks. And just so we can kind of see all the perks that I would recommend for this weapon, I'm putting all of them on screen this very second. In the first column, I'd recommend either Arrowhead Break or Chamber Compensator, followed by the second column to be Accurate Rounds or Flare Magwell, ensued by the third column to then be Tatted Trigger or Zen Moment, and lastly our final column to be once again Multi-Kill Clip or Kill Clip. Now if I'm being honest, in that 4th column of perks, you simply can't go wrong, as that thing has not only Demolitionist but also Rampage as well as Swashbuckler in addition to Multi-Kill Clip and Kill Clip. And so if you happen to get any one of those perks that I just mentioned, you are going to be set. But as far as everything else goes, I definitely stick with those perks I recommended in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd columns, as those are really going to make the weapon pristine in so many ways that it just is going to land crit after crit after crit, getting those optimal TTKs that much more frequently. Of course, there are going to be some exceptions to this, as maybe you're going to have something like say Subsistence and Rampage, and that could be a fantastic type of role that's going to fit your playstyle better than most, but hey, only you know your playstyle better than anybody else, so pick what works best for you. Now something that might help you out a little bit more into determining as to what's going to fit you the best is the weapon's base stats, and so we can see all those right there on screen. And the weapon's base range stat is excellent at 53, its stability stat is phenomenal at 49, plus the additional benefits that your roll is then going to have. And yes, the weapon's handling can't be overlooked either, as that's at 67, and the aim assistance is gorgeous at 65, followed by a mediocre recoil direction at 54, but with my specific roll, that's going to have a plus 25, and so it's then going to go up to 79. Of all the weapons that have made this list so far, the Duty Bound, the Ether Doctor, and the Gnawing Hunger, this Gnawing Hunger is going to be in the number 3 spot because number 1, it's got some of the best base stats out of all the ones that we've seen, and number 2, it can come with a wide variety of rolls that are going to fit many different playstyles, and you simply can't go wrong with whatever kind of perk rolls in that 4th column, as all of them are just amazing. No matter how that you look at this Gnawing Hunger is going to satisfy your craving for whatever food that you're in the mood for, because at the end of the engagement, it's going to say, nom nom nom, crispy. Inserting itself in the number 2 spot is an auto rifle that is so unbelievably rare, it's mind-boggling as to how much the RNG has got to be on your side to get this thing, and it's called the Galley R42. Now I'm not talking about the galliard from way back in the day of Destiny 2 Year 1, but rather the galliard that you currently can get from the Black Armory Forges. And unfortunately that's the only way which you can get this thing, and I won't lie, you gotta have some extremely good RNG luck to have one of these things drop, let alone actually getting a good roll to drop. But having said that, the roll that I happen to have is mediocre at best. I might even consider it, say, a demigod, but this thing happens to have Kill Clip, Outlaw, Extended Magazine, the Slow Temp Host Sight, a Handling Masterwork, and a Counterbalance mod. As with the Duty Bound, the Ether Doctor, and the Gnawing Hunger, This Galley R42 is in the exact same archetype as those ones mentioned, and thus it's going to have the exact same optimal TTK at 0.7 seconds. However, that TTK can go down exponentially if you happen to get one key perk, and that is of course, Kill Clip. Kill Clip can roll on this Galley R42, and when it does so, it's then going to have an optimal TTK at 0.5 seconds and only needs 6 crits to get that. But even if you only happen to land buy shots, it's thus going to take 10 buy shots to get the buy shot TTK at 0.9 seconds. Whenever you can get a buy shot TTK to be less than 1 second, you're right in the money. Just that we're all on the same page, you guys can see all those stats that I just mentioned right there on screen. Just the same as before, these computations were done in a frame-by-frame analysis, and they were also done with a Guardian at tier 10 resilience, aka 201 points of health. Now I know some of you are probably wondering, okay, well what are the odds of me actually getting Kill Clip on this marvelous beauty? And the answer to that is, well, not that great. Just that we can kind of see what I'm talking about, I want to show you guys all the perks that I recommend, and we can see those right there on screen. In the first column, we got 2 sights, the SPO57 front sight and the SPO28 front sight as well. But as far as that second, third, and fourth column goes, here I recommend either high caliber rounds or ricochet rounds, outlaw or dynamic sway reduction, and finally Kill Clip or rangefinder. In essence, what you pretty much have is one of 2 rules, a high lethality or a high consistency based roll. And the first one that I try and get for you is number 1, the high lethality, and that's then going to include Kill Clip, outlaw, and high caliber rounds. But as far as that consistency based roll goes, here you're probably then going to find rangefinder, dynamic sway reduction, and ricochet rounds to be your ideal choices. Now, one of the biggest downsides to this galliard is that of all those perks that I just mentioned, you're then going to have a ton of competition to get exactly those types of rolls. And so not is the roll that you want to attain very, very difficult to do so, but the odds of getting one to drop is even more difficult to do so. And thus, that's the biggest downside for the galliard. But in having said that, it's got some great pros, and that is the weapons-based stats. And you guys can see all those right there on screen. When it comes to the weapon stats, its base range stat at 42 is just mediocre. But stability stat is pretty darn good at 50, a pretty darn good aim assistance at 60, a marvelous recoil direction at 70, and a nice balance intensity that is pretty low at 70 going to the left. With the galliard's stability, aim assistance, and recoil direction stats all being so high above 50, it's then going to have a marvelous shot rhythm, and you're going to be able to land a ton of critical headshots. But in terms of the rolls that you might have, that range stat might seem very, very low now, but that could go up very, very high. And that could be around something like, say, 60 or 70, translating to something like, say, maybe 35 meters of range. That right there is a crazy amount of range, and so of all the ones that we've mentioned thus far, this one probably has the best chance of getting that most optimal effective range at longer distances. And so if you happen to like the galliard, you can't deny that if you want range, it can do so. If you want lethality, it can do that. And if you also want consistency, it can do that. And so for that reason, it made the number 2 spot. But what ultimately makes the number 1 spot? Well, let's find out. At long last, we have finally reached our number 1 spot, and the question that we've all been wondering is, what is it? Well, lo and behold, it's called the Summoner. Now don't worry, we'll get into why the Summoner is in the number 1 spot in just a couple of seconds. But for those of you wondering how to get it, well, the only way in which you can get this thing is by doing one activity, and that is playing Trials of Osiris. Depending upon the week that you're playing, this thing might be available at either the 3-win streak, 5-win streak, or 7-win streak, or maybe even at the Flawless Lighthouse chest itself. And so once you happen to get one, then it's very, very farmable by just simply getting more Trials tokens and then turn them into St. 14, and bada bing bada boom, you might just get that fantastic god roll that we're all searching for. As to what that god roll might be, well, hold on, we gotta look at the weapons TTK stats first. And so as with all the weapons that have made this list thus far, the Summoner is once again in the exact same archetype, and thus it has the same optimal TTK and buy shot TTKs at 0.7 seconds and 1.2 seconds respectively. What you also have to know is that this Summoner can only come with 1 damage buffing perk, and that is Rampage. And so as soon as you happen to get Rampage times 1 prot, its optimal time to kill then goes up to 0.6 seconds if you happen to have a Guardian at 6 resilience or tier 6 resilience, aka 192 points of health. If they're at 10 resilience, the Rampage times 1 is going to do the exact same thing as the weapons based TTK, aka 0.7 seconds. But the secret sauce really happens when Rampage times 3 is procced, and when that occurs, oh yeah, this thing is going to make enemy Guardians a little bit salty, with its optimal TTK at 0.5 seconds. half a second flat is just absolutely astounding. And so just that we're all on the same page, you guys can see all those stats that I just mentioned right there on screen. As with all my computations thus far, these have been done in a frame-of-frame analysis, as well as with a Guardian either as 6 resilience or 10 resilience, aka tier 10 or tier 6 resilience, also known as 192 or 201 points of health. Now some of you might be saying, okay, well Rampage is a fantastic perk, but what if I don't want Rampage, as I can get that on so many other weapons, and rather, what if I want something that's going to increase the weapon's optimal effective range, or simply make the weapon that much more consistent? To you I say, aha, as you guys can see all the perks that I recommend right there on screen that just might do that. And the first column, here I recommend either Arrowhead Break or Chamber Compensator, instead by the second column to be high caliber rounds or ricochet rounds, followed by the third column to then be Zen Moment or Dynamic Sway Reduction, and finally the fourth column to then be Rampage or Rangefinder. If you're looking for a role that's going to have number 1, high lethality, and number 2, a little bit of consistency, then maybe what you're looking for is something like say Rampage, Zen Moment, and high caliber rounds. No joke, Diaslayers, Zen Moment makes this thing a true laser beam, so much to the point that the sight literally isn't moving. If you want to see some test cases of this, in contrast to something like say the Galliard, I just did a versus video of that exact same thing, and I'll link that in the top right hand corner of your screen this very second. But for those of you on the fence as to whether or not you should go with something like say Dynamic Sway or Zen Moment, someone that might be able to help you out with this is the weapon's base stats, and you guys can see all of those right there on screen. As far as weapons range and stability stats goes, 46 and 47 respectively is just mediocre for those two things. But the weapon's handling is outstanding at 73 and it has a great aim assistance at 62 and a moderate recoil direction that will suffice at 57 to get the weapon still an overall shot rhythm that really isn't too shabby. One of the reasons as to why this thing made the number 1 spot is because even if you don't happen to have Zen Moment, which by the way makes this thing so precise that you're going to land every single crit, or even not having Dynamic Sway Reduction, this thing's going to still be just fantastic. I mean, it's going to land the vast majority of its shots almost in a straight line fashion, and you're still going to get the optimal TTK on a very regular basis. Now when you couple this with something like say Rampage as well as high caliber rounds, you're then going to inflict so much flinch and have an extremely high lethality factor that's just going to make enemy guardians say, what the heck did I just get wrecked by? And when it does so, all enemy guardians are going to be obliterated. Poof, adios, bye-bye. Ladies and gents, there you have it, and I hope you enjoyed this top 5 list for all the auto rifles that you should be getting in PvP ASAP, thus making sure that you're ready for this brand new DLC and Season 11. However, you can't have a top 5 list without mentioning some honorable mentions for the ones that almost made this list but didn't quite make that. And one of those auto rifles is the Arc Logic, but more importantly than this is a blue one called the Lysis 2. I'm telling you, do this right now. Go into your collections and pick out the Lysis 2 blue auto rifle. This thing right here is going to cause some fluff abstract shenanigans. It's the weapon that you guys saw me use in the intro, as well as the same weapon that you're currently seeing me use right now. And so to you I say, definitely give this bad boy a try as you won't regret it, and you're probably going to make enemy guardians say, what the heck is going on? This guy's using a blue auto? And yes, even though this is a legendary list, this blue auto definitely deserves the honorable mention. With that, I'm very curious to hear all your guys' thoughts on this stuff down in the comment section below, and which one of these autos do you think should have made the list, which ones didn't, do you think that they should be in a different order and whatnot, and regardless of whatever you guys say, you always know that I'm going to respect your opinions, and that's something that I can guarantee. Lastly, be sure to watch the newest, check the latest, and share a comment like on social media because you are the greatest. That's much all I've got for you as of right now, Diaslayers, and as always, GG TNT.